So the portfolio assignment, right? So we're going to talk about what some of the requirements for the portfolio. Don't look at it as just a maximum of earning 30 points from this assignment. Just don't look at it as a grade. Look at it as a map, right, to guide you in the right direction once school starts and making sure that you have everything ready, set forth to make sure that you turn in your admissions application on time, right? So in a spreadsheet, you're going to put all those 12 schools, right? You're going to have the GRE registration date with it. You're going to have your CV completed, a personal statement, a completed financial aid spreadsheet, and of course, a complete NEIU application. Uh, Aside from applying to all the schools, one of your 12 schools should definitely be Northeastern Illinois University, just as a form to, as a backup, or it may be your choice to go to Northeastern. But make sure that you at least have Northeastern as part of your choices when it comes down to the end. You always want to make sure you have a backup. So the step by step, right? So you're identifying, of course, the graduate programs and school that you want to attend to here. So we're looking right now at the portfolio requirements. So of course, a graduate school is all about specialization, right? One of the emphasis about graduate school, right, that sets apart from undergrad is when you get into graduate school, you're actually specializing in a certain field, right? So say, for example, you're a political science student, right? You're not just going to focus on American government in graduate school. You're going to look more into American government in terms of elections, right? Or voting and elections behaviors, right? That's when we talk about more specialization. You're not just covering a basic topic. You're going more into the specialized field, you know. Also, talk with the McNair staff and your mentor about what are some schools that would be really good fit for those things that you want to specialize in. That's how your McNair mentor is very important key aspect in this because they may know, well, they definitely will know more about what schools are a good fit for you. And some of their colleagues, they can be a benefit to you because they can connect you with their colleagues in the schools that may be of interest to you, right? Um, of course, you can choose more than one program, but don't choose the same school. So, for example, um, don't go into one school and pick, a psychology program and a political science department. Don't do that. Just you can pick a psychology field at a different university and a political science at a different one, but don't pick two programs in one school. You know. Choosing a program. Now, here we go a little different between masters and PhDs. Some of you may just go straight shoot for the PhD. Some of you may just go first for the master's, see if you like graduate school. For some of you, it just may be that you just want a master's degree. Some of you really want that PhD. Of course, we highly emphasize at the McNair program that you get your PhD. But some of you, may just want to start with the master's degree just to see how graduate school is, right? Of course, when you're in the master's degree, it's a bit easier to be admitted into a program. Now, of course, some are very tough and competitive, but the master's degree programs are a little less competitive than PhDs. Now, with that, right, in master's programs, there's a little less funding options, especially if at a program that you're looking at have both a master's and PhD. Let me give you an example. At Oklahoma State University in Stillwater, the political science department there, the highest there you can obtain is a master's degree, right, in the political science field. Now, with that, right, there is no PhD program in political science at Oklahoma State University. With that, right, it gives the master's students a little more funding options. They're able to get those teaching assistantships and those research assistantships because there are no PhD students there. Now, let's look at the University of Oklahoma, which does have a PhD program in political science. The master's students there don't have as much funding options because all of it goes to the PhD students, right? And there's not going to be many opportunities for you to take a teaching assistantship or a research assistantship because they're all going to go to the PhD students, right? And of course, so that's why you should really look into what program that you want to get into. If you just want a master's and you want that funding options, if you want more people to focus on you, then look into programs to see that only have master's degrees, because remember, with the PhD program there, it makes it a little more tough for funding and possible assistantships, right? In the PhD program, right, your GRE scores have to be higher, right? They expect a really high level of GRE score. Then, of course, with the PhD program, there is more funding options. Now, in a master's program, typically it is 2 years. Some programs have become 1 year, but the majority is a 2 years full-time program. If you're going full-time, 2 year program. PhD, you're looking at over from 5 years to 6 years, even more. But never going beyond 8 years. That'd be crazy. But you're looking at a typically average of 5 years at a PhD program. So you have to also put in not only your funding options, but also how much time do you want to spend. That's why it's very important to talk with your family about this, because in a PhD, you're investing a little more time than a master's program, right? Masters also, now if you choose to go the master's level, right, it improves your competitiveness for a PhD. So when you apply for a, like, say for example, you go first the route of the master's programs, you finish your master's, and you say, you know what, I really want to get my PhD now. I see what I need to focus on more. When you apply for that PhD, having that master's is going to give you a little more leg up, right? And a 2 year view, and it also gives you a 2 year view of what you really want to focus on, right? Specifically, more what you want to focus on. PhD, of course, is one application process only. And when you're a PhD student, you get more attention from the faculty. The faculty is going to focus more on you. That's why when you go into a program, and if it's both PhD and master's at that program, just know that if you're at the master's program, right, the faculty may not pay attention too much to you because they got to focus on the PhD students, right? That's their main emphasis. Now, of course, when you apply to PhD programs or master's programs or graduate school, you may, select some out of out of state campuses or universities. With that, you have to, move out, of course, the city. Now, what are the pros of that? You have a broader range of views to choose from. Some pros, some universities are really in high demand for minorities, right? Some universities, if you're a McNair scholars, they're willing to pay high amount in terms of to give you scholarship money just for you to come to the university, right? So there are universities out there eager to have McNair scholars in their campus, right? So you're more in demand for out-of-state universities. Of course, Chicago is a very competitive city. Maybe if you go out somewhere to Oklahoma, Nebraska, maybe Ohio, some of those states, Montana even, right? It's not as competitive, and it gives you a little more emphasis in getting to a program. Of course, some of the bad things, some of the cons, right, is you have to, pay for moving expenses, right? If you're a single person and don't have a family, it's a little much cheaper because you can just get a pickup truck or, ask somebody to, if you're getting your own car, take a few boxes and just move into somewhere. But of course, you have a family and you're going to move your entire family. You have to take in consideration all the moving expenses if your family's going to move with you. Some places your living expenses may increase. Now, if you go out to a place like Oklahoma, Alabama, Mississippi, Nebraska, right? The cost of living expenses is not probably as expensive as Chicago. Now, of course, if you go to a program in Los Angeles, or Austin, Texas, or New York City, your expenses are gonna go higher. But of course, you have to take in consideration the living expenses. And also in the programs, you want to look at the out-of-state fees, right? If you want to make sure that when you get a financial aid package from a school, that they're also paying for the out-of-state fees, right? Because you will have to pay for that until you establish residency there in that state. So, what schools offer the program that I like? That's one of the important things in the application process. One place you can look for is the Pearson Guide, which is available at the McNair office. Another thing is ask your mentor, right? Ask your mentor, like, hey, professor, what programs would you recommend for me, right? Because that professor could possibly know of a good program or several programs that fit your research, the research that you're interested in, and tell you, hey, you know what, you should look at this university and talk to this specific professor, right? Another thing to do, since you're going to be doing a lot of research and a lot of readings from journal articles, right? Look at the names of the people who write those journal articles that you find interesting, right? And because most of the times those professors have their university listed there, and that way you can see, hey, you know what? I really would like to be interested in doing research with this professor because I really like reading his or her articles. And so that way, you look at their name, you look at their university, and that could be a university that you want to go into, right? You always want to go double check on the website. So you go to the university and go to the department to see if they're still there. Because at times, depending on what year the journal article is from, some professors may have moved on to a different university, right? So you always want to double check, just because you see the professor's name on the journal article in the university there, you always want to double check to make sure that they're still there. Also, when you go to professional conferences, when you look at the schedule to see of presenters, right, and you see a university or the professor that you really want to talk to because you read their research and you're really interested in going to work with that professor in a program, right? Go and talk. Go to the presentation and then go talk to that professor after the presentation, and introduce yourself and say, you know what, ask the professor, of course, the university that they're working for, and to just talk to them a little bit about their program and that you're interested in applying to that program, right? Exchange business cards, send a follow-up email, so that way that professor keeps you in mind when the applications come up, because hey, you never know if that professor will remember you from the conference. It's like, hey, you know what, this student came up to me and wants to do research with me, or likes my work, and you never know, it could possibly land you in admissions or something, but it's just a possibility. So always go up and the professional conferences and talk to that professor. And of course, if you have a school in mind, does it have a program that I like? It would defeat the purpose if you say, for example, you like a certain university, like Duke University, but that Duke University doesn't have a social work program that you're looking for, or political science program that you're looking for, right? So always have in mind, does that school have the program that I like, right? And location. Some programs that you really want to get into, because the program is just phenomenal and it fits what you want to do, maybe outside of Chicago. It may be 3-4 hours away from Chicago. It may be out of state. Also, look into what the program emphasis. Programs, there are some programs who just solely focus on research oriented. What that means is they're more emphasized in making sure that you're publishing in professional journals. They're not so much focused on teaching, right? Applied science. They're not so focused on applied, on teaching. So, for example, Northeastern Illinois University is very focused on applied, right? They do have research. I'm not going to say they don't, but their emphasis more is applied. As to, for example, the University of Chicago, it is heavily research based, right? So check with the department. Is it more research or applied based? Check with the faculty there. Check the reputation of the school, right? That's why you should ask your mentor, listen, is this school really well known for this? You'd be surprised at those small universities in Illinois or across the country that may not be very well known, like have a name like Duke or Harvard or Princeton or Stanford. But their program is phenomenal in what you want to specialize in. And you never know that unless you ask. So check the reputation of the school and the program. Check the rankings. But just don't always focus on the ranking, because maybe a school like, say, Harvard, right? They're always ranked at the top 5, number 1 or number 2. But maybe for your program, they're not even ranked for that, or they're ranked very low, right? You rather focus on how well the program is ranked than just the school, right? Oh, when applying for school, right? The competitiveness, right? When you apply, look at the program, look at the website, and find out how many people apply and how many get accepted. In other words, there may be some programs, right, that receive 1,000 applications, only accept 15 students, right? But remember, you don't have to graduate from a very well-known university, right? You don't have to graduate from like a Harvard or Princeton or Duke or Stanford, right? Uh, but in this case, right, here's where the double-edged sword comes, right? At many big name institutions, like I just mentioned, Harvard, Princeton, Yale, and Stanford and such, right, and Duke, their pool of applicants may not be diverse, right? And sometimes most times these universities are looking for a diversity of applicants and to accept into their program, and that's where your opportunity may come, right? For the demand for minority students is great in these institutions, especially if the applicant meets the requirements, meets what they're looking for, and the research is there, right? Their opportunity may be there. So even though there's an applicant, there's 1,000 applicants, your application may stick out, right? Because there's a demand for minority students. So don't be discouraged though, just because there's 1,000 applicants and only 15 spots, right? Don't get discouraged, right? There has to be different degrees of variation. Of course, that's why they need to diversify their student body, right? But therefore, that's why we always say at least apply to 12 schools, right? And 4 of those schools can be the very highly competitive schools, right? Because you never know, if you never turn in your application, that you may just be accepted because there's a demand for minority students and you meet those qualifications, you meet those needs that they want, right? And also look at the quality of the faculty. What are the research agendas? Are these faculty members being published at the top tier journals? Are they presenting at well-known conferences, right? So just look at the quality of the faculty also, right? Just because, let's say, for instance, you don't go to Stanford, it doesn't mean that just because you go to a lesser known school, and maybe that lesser known school probably has a top faculty in the research that you want to be in, right? Also look at the cost and financial aid. Remember, you always want to have a fully fledged paid PhD program where they offer, of course, tuition assistance and tuition paid for, and of course, a financial aid package that also gives you some type of teaching assistantship, research assistantship, or be a graduate assistantship, right? So you always make sure to look at the cost and what financial aid package they have available for you, right? Also, does your mentor know somebody, a faculty from that program you're looking at? You never know who your mentor knows unless you ask. Make sure you ask your mentor. When you have that list of 12 schools, be like, professor, these are the schools I'm looking into. These are the programs I'm looking into. Do you know anybody from this school? You'd be surprised. Maybe your mentor would probably know from all the 12 schools, maybe know somebody from all those 12 schools or from a majority of the list. Or they may even tell you know what, there's this university there, I know they have a faculty member there that was a good friend of mine in graduate school that you may want to look into that's not on your list. So that's why it's very important to ask your mentor. We want us to look at the size of the programs. You really want to be at a very kind of small size graduate program, so there's more emphasis to focus on you. Look at the facilities. Also health insurance to see if the university there, the program offers health insurance. See if you can take a campus visit, especially for those out-of-state universities. Talk with the program, see if you can get a paid trip there to go and visit the campus. Also, are they looking for full-time students? What time are the class offered? Many of the times for graduate programs, a lot of the classes are offered in the evening or in the afternoon or in the evening. And see if it will fit your schedule, right? So the more graduate schools you apply for, the more your ability to get accepted into them, right? We said 12 is a recommended, 12 very selective, less selective, and 4 least selective, right? So the 4 could be the Harvard, the Princeton, the Stanfords, the Yales. The 4 less selective could be University of Illinois, Chicago, or Urbana-Champaign, and the least selective, could possibly be Northeastern, right? So 4 is a minimum, but highly recommended 12. So if the program that you're looking for is available at NEIU, then NEIU should be one of the schools of your pool of 12 schools, right? One of the things about NEIU, right, it's very small, it's welcoming, and it's a plus because, right, I mean, of course, the your McNair office is right there, right? It's right here, and you know the McNair staff, and of course, you'll know the faculty here, and of course, it'd be much easier to navigate. And it also would be good practice for your, if you want to move on, of course, to the PhD. It'll be good practice for for a PhD program, or let's say you kind of want to get into a specific program, right? We can also help you here in the meantime while you're in this in the NEIU program. We can assist you with, of course, getting in with the application, right? So, and also, NEIU is fairly easy to get into. The McNair office can also help you with the financial aid. And of course, we can be your advocates and advising for you, right? That's what's important to here at the McNair office is to be your advocate and, of course, to advise you in graduate school. And of course, as said, it's more easy to navigate here as you are here already. And one of the things that's important though is you're closer to home and to your family. If moving out of state or moving far away is not just possible because of probably the current situation or just want to be closer to family. And of course, as I mentioned, it could be in the meantime while you're at the graduate program, NEIU, right? It could help while you are applying to other programs, right? It can be just helpful to be at the NEIU graduate school to help you, of course, tone up your research skills, writing skills, and also help you. The McNair office can help you with your application, right? So, and as I said, the McNair program is here, right? We'll be the biggest advocates for you and continue to advise you. Make sure you get all the information about the requirements as soon as possible. Make sure you get all the contact information, the application deadline, and know what the minimum GPA to get accepted to that school is, right? Make sure you have the deadlines ready. Make sure you have a writing sample. Make sure some programs may require you to turn in a writing sample. They may ask for 10-page, 15 or 20-page writing sample. Make sure that whatever writing sample you turn into, make sure it's the best. So some of the things that when you're applying, right, know how much the tuition, what are the fees, what are the living expenses. Ask the McNair staff if they know something about the school. With years having the McNair program at Northeastern, right, the McNair staff they've had plenty of McNair scholars that have been in various programs throughout the country, and they will definitely know whether there's a good program or not so well good program. Right, so ask the staff of what they know about the school, and of course, ask your mentor. You'd be surprised, like I said, how much your mentor knows about all the various programs across the country because they may have known friends from graduate school, from other places they've been, that are in those programs, that work in those programs. So ask your mentor, who if they know any of the faculty at the schools that you want to apply to. Now, here's an example, of course, the graduate school information worksheet that we'll be looking at for your portfolio, right? You write down your university and the address, who to contact there for the program. Make sure you write their contact information for the program. When is the application deadline? Make sure that's very important, right? Is the GRE required? What is the average GRE score? Special GRE requirement. Also, how many letters of recommendation do they need? Do they want the application? Is there a writing sample required? The length of the writing sample and what type of application, right? So make sure you write all those things down to make sure that you're ready when you apply, right? And of course, every program may be different for their with the requirements. Some may not even require a writing sample, and some do, right? Sometimes some universities only have an online application. So make sure that's why it's very important that you research these things so you don't at the last minute scrambling to get your applications done. right? And does your mentor know any faculty there? Look at the tuition and the fees, the living expenses, averaging out what is the living expenses. You can just go online, or even or at the university that you're looking at, you may want to research there, the housing department there, or the housing department. There's some universities, some programs have graduate school housing, for graduate students, graduate student housing. So you want to maybe look into that. How much are you going to spend on food, moving expenses, bus, car insurance, things like that. You want to take those living expenses into consideration.